So we're lying on our backs. If you can put the soles of your feet together. I'm aware that sometimes that isn't always comfortable for knees and hips, so feel free to pad up under the knees. The pose is called Supta Baddha Konasana, which sounds very fancy, but it just means supine bound triangle. So it's a nice little inside, the stretch for the inside inner thigh, the groin. So the other thing is if you need to bring the feet further away for that to feel more manageable, so that they're less, there's a bigger distance between the groin and the feet, then you can do that. That sometimes helps too. And can you bring the hands up over your head and maybe hold your elbows? So it's quite a rest, it's very much a resting position, but there is quite intense stretch going on here. So, and if holding the elbows feels a bit strong for the moment, then hold your wrists. And we're going to just listen to our breath, first of all. So allow your breath to be audible. If you enjoy the technique ocean breath, you can introduce that. That's where we slightly constrict the throat. And then suddenly our breath makes a little bit more sound, and the sound is a bit like the sound of the sea. And just another little detail, you can slightly press into the little toe edge of your feet, lift your hips and move your sitting bones or your tailbone towards your heels. And that could be just a very small movement. It doesn't have to be, but it just helps you kind of lengthen out a bit. So we're going to pick up our knees, so that the feet come flat to the floor now. And we're going to interlace our hands and then press the palms of the hands up towards the ceiling. And really stretch out through every finger and through the palm. And then slowly, smoothly, we're dropping the hands back towards the floor. And see how that feels. You might need to slightly bend your arms for that to happen. And then we're going to pick up our hands again so they come all the way up towards the ceiling. And just let our hands come to rest by the sides of the body. We'll take the right foot, we'll pick up the right foot. We're going to cross that foot over the left knee. And the hands are going to come around the knee joint, the right knee. We're just gently pressing the knee away. So I'm thinking for those of you with injuries, you really just be very gentle. Obviously, I don't want to cause any further injury. Keep a bit of flexion in the foot, the right foot, so that if the foot is kind of wobbly, then there's a sort of jerkiness can aggravate the knee. So if you keep the foot flexed, then it's not going to be no kind of sudden movements. And then we're going to see if we can pick up the left foot, hold the thigh or the shin. Now, you will have to make a decision about how much you draw the left knee in. It might not be appropriate if your knee's very, very sore. What I do want you to be aware of is the ankle on the right side. So there might be an inversion or reversion of the ankle. So that, I'm going to demonstrate that, what that looks like. So we're trying to keep the foot very even so that we're not rolling the foot in or out. So the distance between the ankle bone and the bottom of the foot is even on the inside and the outside. That sounds quite complicated the way I've said that, but I hope that I'm trying to think of an easier way to say it. So we just basically don't want to let the feet roll out to the side or inside. We want to keep the toes in line with the ankle. So and that hopefully will also be very, I was advised that that was good, the best option for the knee. So you're not shortening that any of the tendons. They're evenly spaced. So yeah. And you can roll around a little here. You can lift your head and shoulders. So we'll drop the foot back down, and this time we're going to cross the feet or cross the legs as though more like you were sitting on a chair, more of a conventional sort of cross-legged position. We're going to take our arms out to shoulder height, and we're going to let our knees hop, move to the left side. But before we do that, just pick up your bum. So press into the left foot, pick up your bum, and move it a little bit over to the right side, and then let the knees come down to the left. So we're coming into a twist. But we're just manoeuvring our bum a little bit to get that slightly deeper twist. And press back into the right shoulder and arm. You could even look back to the right hand if your neck's okay with that. So your left hand, you could press that down onto the right knee. So you're kind of pressing down, and that can give you a slightly deeper twist too. Press back into the right shoulder. And then to come out, you can bring your feet up like this with the legs crossed, but maybe just for, it's Friday, why not take it a little bit easy? So uncross the legs and let your knees come all the way back up to center. And we'll just float the feet up for a moment. And we're going to cross the left foot over the right knee. So again, we're gently pushing away the left knee. And then you can pick up the right foot and hold the shin or the thigh. Roll around maybe, a little roll from left to right. And now let's drop that the right foot back to the floor. We're going to cross our legs more conventionally, like you're sitting on a chair. Take your arms to shoulder height, hop, press into your right foot, hop your bum over to the left, and then allow your knees to go down to the right side. And the challenge here is to sort of press back into the left arm and shoulder, as though, yeah, the medial edge of the left shoulder. Shoulder blade, sorry, shoulder blade. It's a strong, I think this is quite a strong twist, so if you're finding it a bit intense, you could uncross your legs. But also it can feel quite satisfying to get that deep, the weight of the leg to draw you down. The right hand can reach for the left thigh and you could press a little further down with that hand. And then we're going to come up. So you choose, you can uncross your legs and come up that way, or if you feel like you've got lots of strength, then bring the legs up crossed. And we'll allow the feet to float up. You can take some little circles with your feet, clockwise and then anti-clockwise. And then bend your right knee. Take hold of your right foot. And we're bending the knee as though we were creating a lunge, like a lunge shape with that leg. So the knee is going to, yeah, you can have the knee between the arms, and maybe even placing it down towards the armpit. And if you want to straighten up the other leg, then go for it. If you feel like, you know, you're wanting to go a bit gentler, then keep the left leg bent. So we've got the knee more towards the armpit. Let's bring it more in towards the belly, towards the chest. And this time we can hug it. We can probably hug the knee in. So, you know, the leg is very much more bent at this position. So then this is called wind relieving pose. It's also good for the psoas muscle, which is one of the hip flexors. And you can press around the lower part of, you got underneath the knee, there's a point, just 3 finger widths below the patella, the kneecap, on the outer edge. So if you find the bone, and then you slide to the outer edge, so they call the lateral edge. You press in here. This is a point, it's called 3 mile leg. It's famously good for obstruction of the knee, as well as other things. It's a yang point, so yang is more about raising energy and fire. Yin is more the cooling, calming. So it's useful for kind of giving yourself a little burst of energy. Also said to be good for releasing tension around the chest. So, but mainly for the purposes of what I'm doing with you now, it's for the health of your knee. Sometimes it is quite sore. You can use different techniques. You can kind of dig in a little bit with your fingers and your thumb, but you can also just press down through the palm. And later I'll show you a technique where you can kind of tap it. We'll do that later. But for now, just use the sort of squeezing, holding technique. It's probably better. And the double whammy is that it's good for your digestion. It's actually a stomach point, as well as the action of bringing the knee in, sort of squeezing it towards your intestines. So we're gonna swap a leg. So you can drop that foot back. We're gonna take hold of the left foot with both hands, and we're sort of trying to make a right angle with that left leg, and the knee is coming more towards the armpit. It's like the shape that we make when we're in a lunge. It's that sort of shape. And yeah, so the knee is more to the outer edge of the torso. And you can make this more dynamic by kind of pressing the foot into the hands and pressing back into the foot with the hands. So the sort of little conversation, feet push up, hands push down. And then if you wanted to extend the right leg, you of course do that. So we'll take another breath or so here, and then we're going to bring the knee in towards the chest. So and finding that point. So think if you find the patella, the kneecap, the bottom of the kneecap, and 3 finger widths down on the fleshy outer edge, just on the outer edge of the bone. But it is a little bit, I find these points, sometimes they move around a little bit. So you might, if you move around, you might suddenly find that it's slightly off-piste, you'll find a good area to press. So it's called 3 Mile Leg. And often when I press it, there's almost like a little ache, but not, yeah, a soothing sort of pain that comes from it. Remember to breathe into that. We're going to release the feet in a moment and come back into the pose that we started in, Supta Baddha Konasana. That's also good for the digestion. So put the soles of the feet together. Maybe you'll find you're a bit more comfortable in this now. But if not, remember you can pad up under the knees or move the feet further away. The hands can be overhead. But if you're very uncomfortable, you might prefer to have the hands more on the upper thigh, sort of reassuring the tightness of the thigh. Cooling in breath. We can play around with this pose a little bit by bringing the feet up. You keep the feet together, and then you can hug the feet. And roll a little bit from left to right, so that can feel really good. I'm holding my feet with my hands just positioned directly between my legs, but you could also weave your hands underneath your legs and hold the feet that way. I quite like that option, it's a bit stronger. So we're going to release the feet. We're going to roll all the way over onto our sides. We're going to come up. And just want to do a little bit of stuff for the chest, thinking that you've all come from work. So come onto your hands and knees, round your back, drop your head. We'll take a cat pose. So we're really trying to make space between every vertebrae here. And when you take a cat, try and get a little bit of engagement in the belly muscles as you stretch out the back body. Chin towards the chest. Hips move towards the chin. And then come to neutral position and lift your head and chest. Press. Keep pressing down. And this time when you take this position, it's more contraction in the back muscles. So squeezing, so it's a little back arch, squeezing those muscles in. And then we're going to come to neutral position, come to a chaturanga. So if you wanted to come up into a plank, you could do that. Or if you prefer to keep your knees down, that's fine. We're just going to very slowly lower our body onto the floor. Slide your hands back so they come around your lower ribs. Pinch your elbows into, that sounds a bit brutal, that way of describing it, but the elbows come all the way in, and then we're moving the tops of the shoulders away from the ears. Squeeze the shoulder blades in. So you really should feel the shoulders lifting up from the floor. So we'll relax the body for a moment. We'll do that again. We'll bring ourselves up a little bit. So it's a cobra pose. So think of, so before we do the lift of the head, we're going to think of our legs as like a tail. If you think of a cobra, the amazing power of the snake to lift the body without any kind of support from hands or legs. So it's that kind of energy that we want around the core. So squeezing the thighs together, the feet together, the buttocks gently squeezing in, and all those muscles, the ripple of muscle up the spine. Squeeze your shoulder blades in. It's brilliant for back pain, this pose. Although actually, if you are, I think it's one of those poses that it can feel a little bit painful to begin with, but you should be able to, adjust it. If you do ask me, by the way, because I had experience with this where it did feel a bit painful, and now I've kind of worked through that. It doesn't hurt anymore. So if you do find that you have some questions about that, do ask. So we're holding it, we're breathing. And then come down, completely relax the head and hands. We'll do that pose with a little variation. So the variation is that we bring the hands behind us, squeeze the hands together, coming up again, squeezing thighs, glutes, all the muscles of the spine, pulling the shoulders back and down. If you think of the cobra, you know, the amazing power of those creatures. And it's all contained power. There's not a, it's very streamlined, isn't it? That the snake, there's no kind of bits hanging off. Everything's pressing into the core. Come down, completely relax your head down on your hands. We're sliding our hands back towards the lower ribs, so the elbows come above the wrist. We're pressing down, coming up into upward dog. So again, it's another back arch. So it's quite a different feeling from cobra, but it's the same sort of principles. We want to have a sense of everything kind of squeezing in, not excessive. I don't want you to feel sort of overstraining, but. And then we're coming back to all fours. We're going to just take the right arm and we're going to weave it under the left. So the knees can come together for this. So you're really sort of squeezing the thighs together, hips stay even. And then extend through the left arm. Press the right arm very powerfully into the floor and rotate the chest. Hips not moving really. It's the upper body here that we're working. So the other thing that's quite good is slide the hand back, the left hand, so it comes in line with the shoulder, and then press down a bit more firmly. See if you can turn a bit more. So if you, and finally you can lift the hand, let it float up, maybe wrap it around the waist as well. So you can alternate between any of those options. Still, that right arm's working quite hard, pressing down, turning, thighs, hips, all contained. So we're going to come out, so bring the hand down first, the left hand, come back to your all fours position, tuck the toes under, and then we'll take our downward dog. And let's just enjoy that for a moment, so you can walk the feet, lift your heels, bend your knees, lift your hips, push the floor away. Let's just take a wide downward dog here. So, sorry, when I say wide, I mean long. So maybe take the hands a little bit, tiny bit further away and swing forward into plank. You can drop into little chaturanga if you want to. And then back to all fours. So we'll do the other side. So just take the left arm, weave it under the right. Right hand is stretched away. We're just trying to get the rotation in the upper back. So that's why we keep the core and the hips quite even, so not too much is happening here. Really focus on turning the chest. So that right hand, you can slide it back towards the shoulder, in line with the shoulder, and then turn, keep turning in that position. You can also lift that arm up to the ceiling and maybe float it around a little bit or wrap it around the waist. Full breaths. And then come out. So the right hand comes back to the floor, we come back to kneeling. We can take a little bit of cat-cow. So lift your head and chest. And feel those back muscles engaged, buttocks engaged. And then as you round your your back into cat, you can engage the front body. And then we'll just pause for a moment. We're going to do quite a strong stretch for the legs in a minute, but we can have a little rest before we do that. So connect with your breath. Just check in with yourself generally. What's going on with your shoulders? If you've had a week sitting at a desk, maybe there's a bit of a forward movement of the shoulders. Maybe look at your shoulders. Can you kind of roll them back? Remember that shape that we made when we were in Cobra. How much we can move the shoulders back and down as well. So, I'm going to get the chair. So this is a brilliant stretch. Even if you've had quite a sedentary, well, it's great for runners and cyclists, but even if you're finding that you've actually had a week, where you haven't really got out much, it's very good as well, because you're stretching out muscles that tend to, when we get sedentary, they get very stiff as well. So we are going to, so it depends how adventurous you're feeling. If you're feeling quite adventurous, you can put your right foot up onto the chair and step up and take like a warrior. If your chair is not perhaps, very, very stable, then maybe just take your warrior from the floor. So it's nice to have the chair because you can really feel the rotation of the toes downwards. You can really work on straightening the legs. Squeeze the thighs in towards each other. Lift the toes of the front standing leg. Notice what's happening with the crown of your head. Try and make the crown line up with the rest of the spine. So if you're actually on the chair at this point, we're going to slowly bring the flying leg down. If you're actually balancing on the floor, you're going to bring the flying leg down, but you're going to step the standing leg up onto the chair. So we're all hopefully going to end up with our right foot on the chair. And then we can either hop or swivel the back foot away. And this is pretty intense. So you can be in charge. If you know your body and you kind of like a deep stretch, then maybe, go for it and take that back foot away. If you're not so, I think all of you know your bodies, but yeah, if you're wanting something gentler, then maybe don't go quite so far with the back foot. So we're going to lift the heel of the back foot and then we're going to lower the heel. So it's a bit like what we did lying on our backs, where we had the chest or the knee pressed to the chest, that wind relieving pose. It's a bit like that sort of shape that we're making. Or the combination of those two, where we had the knee into the armpit. And hopefully you're going to have a sense of the inside thigh on that left leg. A little stretch, and maybe hopefully on the right leg too. But so can you locate the muscle of the inside thigh? Remember to breathe. And okay, that's great. We're going to see if we can this time straighten up the front leg, the leg that's on the chair. And so we're coming into, it's like a version of the runner's lunge, I suppose. You could wiggle that front foot a little bit. And of course, bend and straighten the leg as much as you need to. And if a challenge here would be to drop your torso down more over the leg. And so in a moment, actually, I think I've forgotten to tell you something important. So we're gonna just step down off the chair in a moment. And then the important thing that I want you to say, which I should have told you before, is to pad up to get some padding. So you could have a couple of cushions, some blocks. I use a bolster. I mean, you might not. I think you lot are actually getting so flexible that you probably don't need that much. But so when you've got your gear, you can come back into that position where you've got your right leg on the chair and lower your left knee towards the floor. And yeah, so there's a huge. I think this is a very good all-round stretch for the lower body because you can sense the front of the thigh if you press the front of the thigh forward. Yeah, that looks good, Karen. You can kind of lean in towards there's two things you can do. You can kind of lean the weight of your torso onto the leg. Kind of more passive, I suppose. But you can also then sit up more and find almost like a little, not quite back arch, but roll your shoulders back and down and pull the shoulders back. And I'm assuming that you're all getting a reasonable stretch. But if you felt like actually you needed a deeper stretch, you could pick up the back knee and slide it away a bit more. You could also press into the front of the foot on the back leg, so the left leg. So there are lots of things you can do to go a bit stronger if you wanted. And if you've got your right arm on the outside of the knee, you can press the outside of the knee into the arm and press back with the knee. So that's interesting. Kind of creates a bit more space in the back of the lower back. We're going to come out in a moment. So tuck your toes at the back under. We're coming up. And then we can gently step back into sort of like a version of downward dog where your hands are on the chair and your hips are moving far back. You can bend your knees. Pull the belly up. Lift your toes. Lower your toes. So we will come back to the chair, and you've got the option, if you're feeling like your chair is going to support you, then step up onto the chair with the left leg and lift the right leg, or otherwise just do your warrior from the floor. So it's warrior pose. If you feel like you're a bit cramped on the chair, you can come onto your forearms instead of being on your hands. So quite like these supported balances. I feel like you can really work on the alignment when you're supported. So you can really think about toes down, hips even. So there's a temptation to slide that right hip up more usually. Belly up, crown of the head forward. Shoulders back towards your heels so you're not hunched up in your shoulders. So when you're ready, you're going to come out. So bring the back foot down. And if you're not standing on the chair, step your left foot onto the chair. And hop or jump or shuffle back. So we're in that real deep lunge. You can lift and lower the heel. So you're really stretching the foot as well. I love this. I feel like you can get so much opening in the body. And if your heels will allow it, press down to the floor. And then you get a real good stretch into the calves. Deep breaths, really allow those to flow. And can you locate the inside thigh? Can you find the stretch or enable the stretch into the inside thigh? And then we can go into the more of the lunge. So that's just, take your time with that. That just means you're standing on the right foot and the left foot is. Ideally, can you flex the left foot and straighten the leg and drop your torso onto the leg. And then we will take our torso forward, so we're in that sort of lunge to a chair and dropping the back knee, the right knee. Pad up. There's no prizes for how low you go. It's just finding something that feels like it's giving you a nice deep stretch. I think for me, this I go deeper than I do without a chair, so that's why I use the chair. I feel it goes right up into the upmost thigh. So the muscle that I'm talking about that connects into the inner thigh, it's called the psoas, and it travels through the body, right attaching to the lower back. So it's, feels very deep in the body when we activate that muscle. It is literally deep in the body. Notice what's going on with your shoulders. Can you find a way of rolling them back and down? Connecting with your breath again. And then we're going to come out. So just take your time. Take good grip of the chair, slide the back foot in, and then step back. And you can take your downward dog again. Step back to the chair. Bring your right elbow onto the chair. And this isn't going to work so well for you, Karen. So for you, you probably want to just keep your left arm just on the side of the body. And we're stepping up into Ardha Chandrasana. So we're supported. It still works, but if you've got the back of the chair, you can take the left arm and hold the top of the chair. So it depends what your chair's like. And then the elbow on the left arm can really sort of lift up towards the ceiling. But you could still lift that left arm if you wanted to. That's the traditional pose. So the left arm comes all the way up to the ceiling. And although, yeah, you can really work on the line again. So turn the toes out on the standing leg, on the flying leg. Keep breathing. We will swap legs in a moment. So just bring the hand down first. So you've got the support of the chair. Bring the foot down next. And then swap. So the opposite elbow is on the chair. And I forgot to say that, so the elbow's down and the hand is on the right side. So the hand moves over to the right side and then lifting up with the right, with the leg. You can have your right arm resting on the side of the body. You can lift it up. You can wrap it around the waist as well, or you've got the back of the chair to hold, you can do that, and that can feel like an amazing lever to help you turn your chest. It's a very strong pose. Looks very good, what I can see of you. Well done. You're going to come down now, so bring the foot down, bring the hands back to the chair, and then let's just sit on the chair. Oh, you're away, Justine. Have a nice evening. I'll see you soon.
You too, Heidi. Take care.
Take care.
Bye.
So we'll just bring our hands, like we earlier did, a little bit of support for the knee. We'll bring our hands around the ankles, just holding around the ankle. So this point here on the inside of the ankle, it's a kidney point, and we use it for sort of calming the mind, thinking it's the end of the week. We're trying to calm everything down. So find your medial malleolus, this ankle bone, and then slide from your thumb back into the little cavity. So there's the Achilles tendon. And we're just pressing into this little point. Good for the lower back pain as well, but for you lot, thinking more around, calming the mind and winding down from work. But it has lots of other therapeutic applications. So we're going to keep one hand on that inside ankle. Then we're going to take the other hand and firmly grip the thumb. We'll just take some little rotations. Sorry, firmly grip the big toe with the thumb and the finger. So as you do this rotation, can you make it so that your body is part of the rotation? It's not that you're kind of integrated. I've been learning about the word integrity. It's very interesting. It's got a moralistic sort of quality, or it's often interpreted as a moralistic sort of word. And I'm not saying that that's not always, it can't be used in that way, but there's also this idea of being literally integrated, that we're not in a divided state. And that's obviously very much what we're trying to do with yoga. So even in this little movement here, if you're doing a big rotation and the whole body's rigid, and you're kind of sort of creating a bit of tension in the body to apply that rotation, then that you kind of losing that sense of being integrated. So kind of the way I was taught was to bring your whole body into it. We'll take the second toe, squeeze quite firmly around the nail. So these are points as well, as obviously they are bones and, important points in terms of Western anatomy. But in the Eastern tradition, they call them Mingmen. Use these points to sort of calm the mind and reintegrate mind and body. take the third toe. Fourth toe. Fifth toe. And then we can just, for me, I'm going to slightly adjust my position. We're just going to take the big toe and the second toe and pull them apart, so as though there's going to be a right angle between the big and first and second toe. And you can kind of wiggle those toes. And then do the next toes, so the second and the third. The third and the fourth. And the fourth and the fifth. And then there's a point underneath the foot. If you find your the ball of your foot and you flex it, and then there's a little cavity right up. I don't know if you can see. It's called a gushing spring. It's a point on the kidney meridian. So you can kind of press in there gently, or even tapping. Actually, that's quite a good technique some people use. And then we'll come back to the knee point that we were working earlier. So you can either find just a seated position where you can work into that. You could actually just have one leg crossed, the leg crossed over the other. Support the knee, and then we can just tap into that. And go maybe down the leg a little bit as well. If you want to go up the leg, you can. 2. We'll go to the other leg in a moment, but just bring both feet back to the floor. And I don't know about you, but I'm getting a massive difference of sensation, massively. The left side feels quite dull because I was working the side that I hadn't worked, it feels very dull compared to the side that I've just worked. So just sit with that for a moment, that sensation. And then we're going to all do the other side. So we're crossing the opposite leg over. We're going to hold the ankle, so support the ankle. Calming everything down. It's amazing. I think I just think something really therapeutic about having someone touch your ankles. Used to go for acupuncture with someone who would always start the session with his hands on my ankles, and the idea was just to take everything all the way down the body. Suddenly you're not thinking, you're absorbed by something quite different, the complete other end of the body. So we'll keep one hand on the inside ankle. We're going to take hold of the big toe and we'll do some movements. Again, you can squeeze the area around the nail, in particular the lower part of the nail, so the lower corner of the nail, bottom corner of the nail. And we'll move on to the second toe. And again, the same, these Mingmen points are on the, sorry, not Mingmen, Jingwell points are on the lower bottom corner of the nail. If you kind of squeeze that bit, you won't be going wrong. And then the third toe. Fourth toe. And fifth. And we will take the toes, big toe and second toe, and we're gently pulling apart, wide. And you can wiggle a little. And then move on to the second and the third toe. So what I really notice with clients coming for sort of shiatsu treatments, as well as for yoga, but especially with shiatsu, is how much the toes stop moving as you get older. So keeping them mobile, you know, even just from the point of view of that, this exercise is really good. So third and fourth toe. And then as you get, you know, more stiff, of course, you're more prone to falling because you're not so responsive to hazards. Fourth and fifth toe. We'll find that point at the bottom of the foot. So we're really flexing the toes back, and then that stretches the ball of the foot, and then suddenly on the middle part, so that's below the second and the third toe, there's a little cavity, and you can kind of press in here. Kidney 1, gushing spring it's called. Ooh, it's a little bit sore. It depends direction. So for me, if I slightly, it's not even necessarily moving in the position of my thumb, but if I slightly experiment with the direction of my thumb, suddenly it will go from not feeling anything to feeling really strong. So be aware of that. And not feeling anything isn't a failing or anything, by the way. So it's just sometimes you just don't feel that much. Try tapping it as well. See if that feels any different. And then when you're done with that, oh, we're going to come back to that knee point again. So support the knee, the patella, with one hand, and you can tap with the other. So it's the out, find the bone, find the patella, 3 finger widths down, and slide out to the fleshy outer side of the bone. Again, it's like you can press around a little bit. When you're done with that, we can just come to sitting. And we'll just take a pause, to have a little pause where you get to redirect your focus all the way down into the feet and sit with that sensation in the feet. So I feel like I should finish with a little bit of neck and shoulder stuff as well. So if you want to sit on the chair, if you're happy here, then do that. If you prefer to sit on the floor, that's fine too. So just whatever you prefer. We're going to just let our right ear drop towards the right shoulder. So make sure you're comfortable. That's the most important thing. And we want the right shoulder to relax. So you can take your left hand and just encourage the muscles to drop. So we're exploring movement. So we can nod the head a little bit, chin up and down. We can move the chin down to the shoulder and up. And so the thing we want to deepen and release is this muscle down the side of the neck. So you can take the right hand and just rest it on the side of the head. See if that helps. And close your eyes as you do this. I'm going to lift the left hand. Not too high, it's coming behind the head now. So we're supporting the head with the left hand. And then you can play around with this arm, elbow coming up, back. Find a position or movement that feels like it's helping and deepening the stretch. And then we're going to bring that arm down, we'll release the head. And just to soften this shoulder, let's just take the left hand, make it quite floppy, and tap into the top of the shoulder. Go back a little bit, and the shoulder as well. It's usually a bit sore. In fact, why not do the other side as well before we go to the other side? So make a loose fist again, tap into this. You can experiment, you can go faster, maybe that feels better, slow and steady. And then let's just pause for a moment, sit back, relax back. we will go to the other side. So it's the left ear over to the left shoulder. You can hold that shoulder. Can you find a way of relaxing into this more deeply? So maybe, like, I just noticed then I could relax my jaw and suddenly everything kind of dropped down a gear. So maybe there's a bit of you, it might not necessarily be around the head and shoulders, it could be something, it could be even thinking, you know, you're kind of finding that you can't let go of an idea or a thought. It could be something like that. You can nod your head. And you can move your chin down towards the shoulder and back. I'm going to release that arm. I'm going to take the left arm and just rest it on the side of the head. Making time to breathe. And if your shoulder is very sore, you might not want to go for the biggest stretcher. You might prefer to just keep it quite subtle. I'm going to take up the right hand, so you can come behind the head, just supporting the head. Elbow can move up and down and back. Coming out, so release the right hand first, and then the left hand can come away. You can, if you want to sort of gently move your head back by supporting it with the. And we'll sit for a moment, palms up. So just sensing the whole body. So obviously we did quite a lot on the feet, so coming into your feet, sensing the feet, hands, crown of the head. So we're going to come to, before we do Shavasana, we'll just do a little lying down side position. Thinking it's nice to open up the shoulders a little bit, but we won't spend ages. So just make sure you've got something for your head. You're actually going to lie on your belly. I'm just going to start with my right arm. So my right arm's going to be out at shoulder height, and then I'm rolling onto the side of the body. So my right arm is behind me. Head is supported. Now, I ideally arm shoulder height. But of course, that may not be the right thing for you at the moment. So you could adjust the position of the arm so it comes back towards the waist more. So you choose. So. And wants for this to feel therapeutic. So adjust it as much as you need to. I'm going to bend my top leg, my left leg, so that the knee turns up towards the ceiling, because for me that feels really good. You could try that. But otherwise you can have the knees resting together, or have your legs straight or bent. So we're trying to turn the body and also let the weight of gravity drop into the shoulder on the right side. So there's the weight of the body is kind of opening up that joint. Let your head be heavy. And then turning back, we're going to go the other way. When you're ready, just take your time, turn back. So you're lying on the other arm. Turning onto the side body. So the weight of the torso is, well, if I say crushing the arm, that maybe sounds a bit brutal, but it's basically, there's a better word for it maybe, but it's basically what we're trying to do. Use the weight of the body to open it up and relax completely into it. So from here, when you're ready, you can come to Shavasana. So if you're enjoying this position, then hold it for a bit longer. If you've had enough, you can roll back onto your belly, release your hands, and then come into your Shavasana. You're doing, it's good what you're doing. I hope it feels good. If you're not, ask if you have questions. So Shavasana, I've sort of been reading a bit more about it recently, and the concept of death is like death of, obviously we don't necessarily embrace it in our culture. We're more like hide it away. But the idea is that everything in your life has meaning or enhanced meaning from when you have an experience of death. It sort of creates perspective, I suppose. So that's another reason why Shavasana is said to be sort of good pose, as well as the actual therapeutic physical benefits, psychologically. The idea of letting the ego go to get a bit of perspective on our world. So even though, of course, we're very much focused on letting the physical body go, also the not holding on to thoughts or ideas about the self. Surrendering on a psychological level as much as the physical. One interpretation of why we do Shavasana. But let's just stick with the body for now. So really relaxing the tongue, the eyes, eyeballs, jaw. Throat, back of the head, back of the neck. The shoulders, all around the shoulder joint. We've just been working. Back of the heart, all around the shoulder blades, the diaphragm, the ribs, the sternum, the belly, hips. Pubic bone, pelvic floor, the glutes, the thighs, inside thighs, back of thighs, front of thighs, knees, calves and shins, ankles, front of the feet, soles of the feet. Big toe, second toe, middle toe, fourth toe, little toes, and the arms, biceps, triceps, elbows, forearms, wrists, back of the hands, palms, thumbs, forefingers, middle finger, ring finger. and little pinky fingers. And I notice the more that I can surrender any intention that I have for my body, the more I can kind of commit it to rest and release any tension, the more sensation that I can enjoy in the body, the more life, the more the body comes to life, its own life. Sense of the flow that we ignore, we override the inner life of the body with our drive and our will, our intention for the body. So, for example, you've got a headache, you might go and take a paracetamol and then do something really strenuous to drown it out. That's just one example, but now we're really listening to the body. When you're ready, you can begin to bring some small movements into the fingers and toes. And then roll onto your side. Settle there. And come up sitting slowly. And we'll just sit very simply, palms open, and then take a wisdom mudra, thumb, four fingers together. Just sitting very simply. Sorry, yawning. And finishing with the thumbs coming together, lifting them to your third eye. Press them there. Thanks very much. Namaste. Have a lovely evening.